in order to get back into the refuge of God, in order to experience His presence, which is the only way we're going to be good dads. Like you need your tanks filled, and you need to come down from your stress,
Yeah.
or you're just not going to be a good dad. I mean, I can tell the difference, when I'm walking in the door fried and when I'm walking in the door in a good place, right?
John, this is fun. Today, I think it's the third time we've had a dad awesome conversation together. So first, thank you for going round three.
Yeah, yeah, no, I remember the other two. In fact, last time we were able to be together, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I loved that when my family came through the Colorado Springs area. But the difference of today's conversation is about 8 months ago. You don't know this, but I had the opportunity to be a part of my first boot camp to experience 4 days, 3 nights, the time together in Central Florida. I got to, I mean, really, it's step one for the ministry Wild at Heart, but it took me because of travel in the RV and pace and a number of factors. But I was able to say yes and experience those 4 days. And I just wanted to say thank you for that offering
Mhm.
that's free and it's all over the world. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, beautiful. So glad you did.
Yeah, it's and to my friends who led, I've already thanked them and they'll be listening. But today, John, I thought it'd be fun as we dive into your new book, Experience Jesus. Really, I thought let's start with fort building because yesterday I actually devastated my daughter's hearts with destroying one of their forts. So
Ooh.
this was an accident. I had a friend from church. We're doing some tree trimming in this new property that we moved into, and I cut down trimming palm trees here in Northeast Florida. And they had built a little fort under some of those palm branches that needed to be trimmed. And I was exhausted, and they come walking in and just tears for my 6-year-old because this is her fort, and there's other. We still have the palm branches, and I'm going to help them reconstruct. The goal is to rebuild, but fort
Yes.
building, coming cardboard boxes to palm branches to so many other materials. I think as a man, fort building still like gets me a little bit like excited. And as a kid, I know you talk about building forts in your new latest book. Where does your heart go when I bring up the concept of building forts and disappointing my daughters and rebuilding? Like, how does it stir you today?
Yeah. I want to go do it. I still love it. I'm
Yeah.
64 and I still love building forts.
Yeah.
And I'll be hiking in some of the, open space behind our house here in the woods, and I'll come upon, piles of sticks and that kind of thing. And it just makes me smile going, okay, what little group of, boys and girls put that little fort together? It is a fascinating thing, Jeff, that it's universal. Like it's all over the world. This isn't just an American thing or a middle class thing. Like kids love building forts. I did when I was a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think we stop? Like, 'cause it does feel like I take life pretty seriously with projects that I'm tackling, and like, what's moving hearts of adults to stop building forts?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we get caught up. Yeah, that's a big question because it has to do with the loss of wonder and the default to the pragmatic. Like fort building, it to an adult is a waste of time, right? We got to get to the pragmatic stuff. And but here's the fascinating thing. Even still, you ask you ask hunters like what's your favorite place to be, and they'll say something like a duck blind, and they'll just talk about they won't talk about the duck hunting. They'll talk about, oh, I love the quiet in the morning and the calm on the water, and I love being kind of nestled into a little hidden spot. So it still sneaks in. And for me, it sneaks in backpacking. Like
Okay.
I love tents.
Yeah.
I've always loved tents. And so for me, it's literally one of my favorite places in the world. If I wake up and find myself in a small backpacking tent, it's like one of my happiest moments.
Hmm. There is something about, I mean, shelter, and there's a whole chapter in the book about like how we have fears. We have real and perceived, like, oh no, what about this? What about that? Do I have this together? And we build often shelters that are not gonna fortify us from. And we use wisdom of this world to build these shelters. And I think that's also kid forts. Kid forts are not really going to handle the storms, the wind, the rain often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's there's a true place for refuge. There's a true place for a way that God's designed us to have shelter and shelter in a kingdom reality. Can you take us into that theme a little bit and how it would apply to all of us dads?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was watching, it's just having been a therapist for a long time now. What is with the global mental health crisis? Because on the one hand, they've never been more abundant. We've never had this many therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, professionals, clinics in schools, clinics on campuses,
Yeah.
and the medicine and all that has just been brilliant. Why can't we touch the global anxiety issue? For example, one in every two young people suffering from anxiety. Why is that? And so anyway, it got me thinking a lot about shelter, refuge, that childlike longing to have a safe place to come into. And then I've been reading the refuge Psalms, like Psalm 27, 46, of course, the famous Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. And I think that idea of rest, like let your anxiety come down, let the cortisol come down, let the fight or flight, come down a little bit. I think this is a brilliant gospel moment to be able to show people, you know what, you can actually be safe in the love of God. You can actually feel safe in his care and in his protection if we can get people, well, it's back to your thing. If we can get the wonder back, right? If you can get the cynical adult pragmatism to
Yeah.
just put the gun down for a minute
Yeah.
and just go, you know what? You can actually take refuge in the presence of God. You really can.
Mm,
And you will find it to be that lovely fort experience of,
yeah.
I feel good.
Yeah. I found myself in the last couple weeks because your book just launched a couple weeks ago. Every chance I get, I'm talking to friends and chatting with my wife because she's reading as well. We're both listening to the audiobook, which
Oh,
I
nice.
the pace was kind. Yeah, it's kind, it's beautiful, and then you add a bunch of extra content, which is fun just to hear you riff on your own writing. But as I explained to them why this book and why now, like I feel like it's a moment to turn one way or the other, to keep turning the way that the world is headed of devastation, despair, just try to be okay, try to make it, to a different a course correct that's entirely different. And even I mean the tattoo on my arm is the whole theme is paradise to paradise, and just understanding that
Hmm.
we experience fractional paradise, but there's the full expression. But man, we get to live in fractional. We don't have to just like touch it once in a while. We get to experience kingdom of
Yes.
heaven here. So that's as a flyover, I immediately jumped to the fact that I'm using AI more often for projects, for work as my assistant that only costs $20 a month. I got the pro version of one of the platforms, and but yet I'm wondering, am I going to the tree of knowledge of good? Like, am I like, is this should I be even using this new tool? And so there's tensions, real tensions. But the fact that I can get information immediately, right now, on every topic how it's shaping me. That's probably the easiest way I've led into the conversation about your book with friends. Would you give for all of us dads just a flyover? Why did you write this? And within that, would you talk about the original name and why that's still a strong theme, but why you chose not to use the original
Yeah,
name?
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll start there. So I
Yeah,
wanted to
sure.
call the book Ordinary Mystics
Mhm.
because we need to get pulled out of the hyper rational, cynical, pragmatic, and especially as dudes,
Yeah.
the hyper left brain approach. Give me the latest science, give me the facts. I'm going to Google it. Let me get to the bottom of this, and I'll nail it. um, that's really good if you're trying to figure out how to seal like a water leak in your roof,
Yeah.
but it's not good for the rest of your soul. Like that, knowledge is control. Knowledge makes me feel safe because the thing is, it just turns around and bites you. Because the next day, somebody is there saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that on your roof, man. That's a terrible product. You need to, and over and over and over again, just every piece of information you thought was reliable as a dad. Some new expert comes along and goes, no, actually, you shouldn't do that at bedtime. You should do this. Okay. In order to get back into the refuge of God, in order to experience his presence, which is the only way we're going to be good dads. Like you need your tanks filled and you need to come down from your stress
Yeah.
or you're just not going to be a good dad. I mean, I can tell the difference, when I'm walking in the door fried and when I'm walking in the door in a good place, right? Okay. The thing is that we've all been so baked in this internet life, um, knowledge, information, that's your security. Whoops, sorry, that's not true anymore. And then you take the current global events and the amount of chaos being released in the world, and wow, are the tariffs going to drive,
Yeah.
my family's cost of living up? And what's going to happen with steel? And okay, you have to get out of that. And the idea of being ordinary mystics is um, the wonder that little kids enjoy with forts is an open heart and an imaginative approach to life that's
Yes.
totally right brain,
Mhm.
right? And I just want to say, look, you're a whole person. You just can't live from your left brain. You've
Mm.
got to let the intuitive, the relational, the connection back in, particularly in your life with God.
Mm.
And so when we had to come up with a new title, and there were a couple reasons for that. One, another gal had released a book with a really similar title, and she actually called her online community Wild Heart.
Oh.
Uh, but she's Fruit Loops. I mean, it's new age woo woo,
Oh.
And we're like, yeah, let's not get that confused for people. But also, I just knew people would freak out. It's
Mhm.
like mystics, that's horrible. I'm like, hang on, hang on. So let's call it experience Jesus,
Mm.
really. Because of the hyper left brain approach, most guys would not report like rich, regular experiences of God, like good content, good preaching, teaching, good discipleship materials, but not that deep experiential life that frankly if your Christianity is not deeply experiential, it can't sustain you.
Doesn't.
You're a branch in need of a vine. You got to be hooked up to a living source of life, not just an idea about it. And so, yeah, that was my huge heart for the book was we got to get people back into rich, regular contact with their Father, their Papa
Yes.
God, with Jesus and all he can do for you with the Holy Spirit. Like this is meant to be normal.
But if we think that we're just living and use the phrase like neutral, like if we think we're just getting through and our faith is a fraction, but there's a lot of other slivers to that,
Mm.
then then actually a knowledge base works. It works if there's not real warfare and if there's not a real choice between kingdom of darkness, Satan, kingdom of heaven, God's kingdom. And like that was an aha, like maybe 7, 8 chapters in of like, whoa, like if that's the case, then I would like take being with and experience Jesus to start every day very seriously because I get to
Exactly.
make a choice. You've encouraged forever daily prayer, and I recently heard you talk about the length of your daily prayer and how if without it, your day is you're screwed. um, would you help remind all of us why you encourage daily prayer?
Yeah, guys, because the why is everything. The
Hmm.
why is everything because we fall into these routines. Yeah, like show up at church and, be part of the men's group or whatever your
Yeah.
routines are, get to the pancake breakfast or whatever. We lost the why
Uh-huh.
a while ago. And when Dallas Willard wrote his seminal book on the spiritual disciplines, he didn't write about the disciplines so much. He wrote about the why.
Yeah.
Okay, because the why is really important. Why do we do these things? So I'm going to swing all the way back around to the why.
Good.
And the why is this, that your soul, there's two big whys. The first one is your soul is designed to live in union with God. So that when you look at a vine and branch, you can just go out in your backyard and look at trees and their branches, bushes and their branches. They're so intertwined in their fibers. You can't really tell where one ends and the other begins. It's not like Lego, you
That's true.
know.
Yep.
It's intertwined life. Okay. That is the nature of union with Christ.
Hmm.
That your soul is meant to live in union. And out of that union, you're going to get strength and joy and guidance and wisdom and all kinds of great stuff. And he's going to heal your soul, by the way.
Yes.
Okay. He can heal your trauma
Mhm.
through union with Christ. Now, the other why is the world you live in is constantly destroying that union, constantly. The amount of media we take in as a
Mhm.
norm, the pace of life, just what your work expects of you, and then there's soccer and music, and you got to get carpool and da 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 da, And so the world and the kingdom of darkness are constantly trying to pull that union apart. And so things like daily prayer, the why is I need union, man.
Yes.
I need connection. I need
Yeah.
the life of God in me. I need care because the world is constantly stressing me out.
Mhm.
And where do I take that? Right? Well, you can start taking it to, too many beers. You can start taking it to too many donuts. You can take it to
Mhm.
porn. You can take it
Sure.
to all kinds of places. The soul needs that care. So for me, daily prayer is not a bummer,
Mhm.
right? It's not like cold plunging where you go, oh, okay, I know this is good for me, but
Right.
I'll get it there.
Yeah.
And I do cold plunge and I do like it,
Yes.
but nobody stands in front of that icy water and says, yeehaw,
No,
can't
it's so
wait.
true. Yep. Yep.
But for me, for daily prayer, it's the fort, it's the refuge, it's the
Mhm.
return to the vine. It's like, okay, I do this to repair my union. And also because I know that predatory forces are out there
Mhm.
just looking for some way to take me out.
Mhm.
And it might be anger, right? Just pissed at the world. It might be checking out my neighbor's wife,
Mhm.
right? Now you're into what? Like that's a disaster. But the enemy's looking. He's looking for some way to take us out. And if I'm not repairing my union,
Mhm.
so morning and evening for us, man, morning and
Mhm.
evening. And it always begins with letting it all go, letting the world go, letting the news go, letting it go so that I can repair my union. And it's transformative.
Yes. And as a small step into daily prayer, even, I mean, your 30 days to resilience, where you guide two experiences a day, would be an example of maybe before you jump to the 12-minute or 10-minute full Wild at Heart daily prayer that you've written, which is the one I prayed this morning, which almost daily I walk in and find my wife, I hear your voice and she's praying along with you. So it's
Right on.
very, I mean, so common. It's been such a gift. It changes like I feel physically, my entire body feels different after praying this union prayer
Yes.
and this warfare prayer and this putting on
Yes.
armor. Like there's so many layers, but I just had a parallel. example that I think ties in. It's a dad reading the same children's book over and over with his kids. It's unpractical. They've heard the story, they know where it's going, and I mean, I guess it doesn't. This metaphor doesn't quite work when it comes to the warfare and the protection side, but it does on the connection and relationship because the book Pippi Longstockings that I've read so many times to my four daughters, we know the pictures, we know the words, but sitting with them and reading, there's a connection. And I think there's some of that I feel, the connection to my Heavenly Father that is,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
unpractical. And that's part of
Yeah.
the whole book. A lot of it's not tangible, it's not practical, it's not, but kids, if we go back to childlike wonder, kids don't want a four-part challenge that all start with the same letter to go do it like this, all practical, do they?
Yes, that's right. They want story and
Mm,
connection and wonder and adventure, which is exactly what life with God is like, man.
that's it.
It is
That's it.
full tilt adventure
Yep.
and full tilt story, right? If we
Yes.
get the heart back into it, get the
Hmm.
right brain, give the right brain permission, because there are different ways of knowing.
Hmm.
And the right brain does not think in terms of critical reasoning.
Hmm.
It thinks in terms of relationship.
Yes.
You just go, wow, that's like the Trinity. I mean, the Trinity is at core a community. It's relationship, it's family. And we're made in the image of that. So we're looking for connection all the time. Like, why do guys get totally lost in their sports team?
Hmm.
And I'm going to confess,
Yeah.
my Liverpool is
Yes.
finally going to win the Premier League title after years of Manchester City, reign of terror. It looks pretty good this
It
year.
does. Good. You're my
Okay.
only connection to those stats with football internationally. It's our chats. It's you bring it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I love that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's looking pretty good. Um, why is that? Why do
Hmm.
dudes have their team, or their band or their podcast, right? Well, we're made for connection. We're made for community. And to come into that kind of connection, and here's what we're talking about, guys. I mean, I'm talking about being comfortable with the presence of God. You recognize it. You're like, oh, there you are.
Hmm.
Being comfortable with union. Like we're friends. We're intimate. We're literally, I'm drawing my life from you. And I hear the voice of God. This is very, very normal in the life of the saints. And you lead me with your counsel. You restore my soul, Psalm 23. That's not just poetry. David is reporting stuff that happens to him in his connection with God,
Yeah.
right? He reports a lot of stuff. And like in Psalm 63, he's like, I've seen you. I've seen God. You're incredibly beautiful. And then he says stuff like, you satisfy me. Now, I used to read that and go, I believe you, David. I don't really know that myself.
Hmm.
I believe you. It sounds amazing. And so I'm going to read the Psalms because they're very inspiring, but the Psalms were not a personal encounter for me. Like it wasn't like, oh yeah, I could report that too. Well, I can now.
Hmm.
Like there is a life available to us where all the stuff you read in scripture, you go, oh yeah, no, that's you too. You get included in that too. So when Jeff and I are talking about like prayer and communion and the presence of God, we're saying, oh yeah, Psalm 23, you restore my soul. Oh yeah, oh yeah. He'll do that for you if you'll come out of that hyper left brain internet way of even handling your spiritual life.
Hmm.
Checking the boxes, getting it done.
And there's a pace that you've already brought up the pace factor here, but there's also when I think of the word pause, I think of you and your team because of
Mm.
just the idea, the word pause. I think of Wild at Heart and the Pause app and just pausing. But I had a date scheduled with my wife, Michelle, last night, and we paused because of a lot of like things we were both feeling. and we prayed about what should that date look like, and it changed radically. And we worked out together instead, and we were kind of around helping homeschool our daughters. Took a break to do that, and then we moved back into a little date mode, sitting by the fire. It was just very different than we had planned that date, and it could have been very disappointing. But because we paused and prayed, and we
Yes.
felt led,
There it is.
completely different.
And the thing is, like, that's not super mystical, and that's why I call it ordinary mystics.
Mhm.
We're not talking wild fantasies and visions and yeah, crazy stuff. We're talking about you are a deeply spiritual being. Every dad is. You are made to live in a world that is saturated with spirituality, with the expectation that the angels will protect your kids today
Yes.
as you ask them to,
Mhm.
right? Hebrews 1, are not all angels ministering servants sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? They're here to help. Okay. Well, the ordinary mystic goes, angels of God, would you please guard the school bus today? You just like you're living in a much more what I want to call storied
Mhm.
world. You're living in a much more enchanted or re-enchanted world, which is, as you start reading the Bible, you're like, oh, that was their worldview. They lived in a highly enchanted world in the sense of expecting the miraculous, expecting the presence of God. And the ordinary part is, yeah, help us with our date night.
Mhm. That's it.
Help
And
us
it,
help us with our family vacation plans.
yes. And it was so actually, I mean, I walked through 9 options for our date. Like I actually vocalized to Michelle, these were 9 options of what we can do. And then we prayed, and she actually thought multiple times I chose wrong because I let her choose. Like, how is God leading you right now? What's he whispering to you? And
Oh,
even
wow.
mid workout, she's like, I think I made the wrong choice. And I was like, let's press in. Let's just finish this workout. So yeah, and it truly was the right. It was a gift. The connection was God multiplied the time of our conversation more than yeah. So the I'd love to jump to turning and the story of Mary
Mm, mm,
and Jesus at the tomb,
mm.
and this idea that we can choose before we feel like it, or even toward like there's often a turning that happens before we desire. Like
Yes.
it's a powerful, powerful
Yeah.
story. If you could set it up, that'd be
Oh,
amazing.
I love it. I love it. Let me give
Mm,
context for it because the beauty of this story needs to sit in the context of our moment. So, guys, if you haven't noticed, the war is for your attention.
mm,
The war is for your attention. And with the help of AI, they know you really well, man. And so I'm on online Bible programs trying to look up a word or something, and then doink, here's the Kuyu hunting gear that I've been dreaming about. Like the war is for your attention, and the war is for your affection. Okay. Um, so the reason that people get nervous when they lose their cell phones, right, is that it makes us feel better that, oh, I can get anything I need at any time. Okay, I can look anything
mm,
up. I can map something. I get the news. I get the weather, and I can also find where my kids are. Right.
yeah.
Okay, so the war is for your attention and your affection, and and then you have these beautiful stories. So Mary Magdalene,
Mhm.
uh, who I'm learning more and more about and coming to, wow, really appreciate her. Um, she is actually called in the history of the church the apostle to the apostles,
Wow.
because she is the first one to encounter the risen Christ, and he tells her, go tell the others.
Yeah.
Well, that's what an apostle is. You're sent
Sent.
to bring
Yeah.
the message. Okay, it's incredible. Well, you go, first off, Jesus, like, dude, you can't do this. You can't bring a single
Yeah.
woman
Right.
into like your inner circle, and you can't have these meetings with her that if the news sources get this, man, they're going to destroy your reputation. No rabbi would do this. Okay, so you have that.
Mhm.
And then you have, he's pretty close to Peter and John, right? They get, Mount of Transfiguration and these incredible moments. But it's Easter morning. Who's at the tomb? It's Mary Magdalene. She's the first one there. And she's so racked with grief when you are in grief, anybody who's lost, a parent, a child, a miscarriage, like it's just devastating. And she's just utterly devastated. And she thinks he's the gardener. Like her eyes are just
Mhm.
swollen from crying, and um, and then he just says her name. He just says Mary, and she turns, and she recognizes him, and that turning of the heart, it is one of the most beautiful human moments. It's our attention and our affection that we turn in many ways before our intellect
Yeah.
follows.
Yeah.
Like she's not going, wait a second, you're supposed to be dead. And, biologically, how does this work? And, there's none of the left brains going
Yeah.
on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Her heart is engaged first. It's the turning of the
Mhm.
heart. I turn my heart towards you. I turn my affection towards you. And of course, she ends up, being the very first one to encounter the incredible news of Easter and all of it, right? The hope of the new creation. And, I mean, everything. That turning of the heart is the simple life of practicing the presence of God,
Mhm.
right? It's not first an intellectual exercise, though we can be helped by our left brain. You can study the scriptures, you can memorize them, but it is an inward turning of the heart to Jesus, I need your presence. I need your help today. Jesus, come
Mhm.
into this. Help me as I walk into this meeting. Help me with this phone call. I don't know what to do. That simple turning of the heart is the most beautiful thing in the world because it begins to restore the relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. The I don't recall who, but it was a neuroscientist that you referenced around story. And I think this is the quote. This was one of those when I was out walking and then pause and open my Evernote app and I'm typing fast with my audiobook. Here was the quote. When we listen to someone else's story, we quite literally become like them. So the positive, there's a shadow side to this and a positive, I think. The shadow side is that if we're listening to all these news sources or all this negativity or all this, like we actually like we're hearing these stories all day long, we become like oh man, the burdens we're not designed, we can't handle it. But the positive side, the way I pull from this is that, man, if I can sit around a campfire and hear another dad's story, even a small, we call it a 7 minute slice, would you just for 7 minutes tell us about some of the peaks and valleys and the treasure of those
Mm,
stories?
mm,
We love just, and of course, the
mm,
deeper. Give me the hour and a half version. I had an experience a couple weeks ago. Got to hear some long form. I want to hear your story.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
how do you like that quote and the idea of what neuroscience has discovered around story? How would that impact? I mean, the conversation we're having today, but just all dads. What would you add to that, or subtract if you think differently than what I just shared?
Yeah, no, no, no. If you begin to realize how much you're being shaped
Mhm.
by the stories that you're listening to, you'll go, oh wow. One, I'm going to limit my news intake to like 5 minutes a day. I'm just going to get in, find out what's going on, and then get out. Get out, and because it's shaping you. And one of the ways I've noticed that it shaped me, if you listen to all these angry podcasts or you listen to the outrageous news, just stuff that just makes you so furious, you're going to get really worked up and you're going to be a fairly upset and angry man. Like, and there's a lot of reason to be. I'm not saying there isn't. It's just that do you want to be that guy? And do you want your kids to experience that guy? You know, so you have to limit that. But here's the other cool part. So on the other side, you were talking about the positive. Dan Siegel is this other um, neuroscientist guy, and he's got these online videos. And listen to the lingua franca we have to use in order to convince your listeners that what we're saying is true.
Oh yeah,
We have to justify everything by YouTube and videos and the latest research. You
sure.
see? Hey,
I'm
okay,
doing
so
it. Yep.
guys, Guys listening to this, do you see how this is just baked into everyone's
Mm,
experience now? It's just madness. But some of it's super helpful. And here's what he discovered. As you sit with another human being and look eye to eye and listen to one another, it literally heals the human brain. It is a healing
mm,
experience to your physiology to listen with compassion and to be listened to with
mm.
compassion.
Yeah.
That's just basic human connection, right? You're at coffee or you're standing outside church on Sunday morning and it's just a, hey man, how are you?
Mhm.
It doesn't take long to begin to get that connection going. And now we're back into the mystic life. It's like, that's amazing
Yeah.
that God would wire both the body and soul to connection, right? Why is solitary confinement a
Torture.
punishment?
Yeah.
Torture.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so back to the mystic life. Well, guess what, fellas? You get to enjoy that with Jesus. Like full on, full tilt, intimate,
Hmm.
eye to eye, face to face connection. You do.
Yeah. John, there's so many other directions I could kind of steer to kind of gain more insights from the book. I'm praying that most of our Dad Awesome community will go listen
Mm,
or read and
mm,
take a deep dive. I'm praying they will. I'm grateful for you writing this book.
mm,
Uh, Lingering is kind of where I want to land this
mm,
conversation today.
mm,
The the encouragement that you have encouraged me and those who to linger
mm,
with God, before God, and then after explaining what it is, if you could just even pray, it doesn't have to be a rapid, maybe even a lingering prayer for a
mm.
few moments
Yeah.
over all of us with us.
Yeah.
That'd be an incredible way to kind of end this conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I want to explain to your guys, like I am in the same mess, fellas. So I had 5 minutes before Jeff and I got on to record this. I had a 5 minute, I'm sitting at my desk and you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to get on news.
Yeah.
I want to go, what's going on with Ukraine? What's taking place with the Mexico border? It's just
Mhm.
unbelievable, man. I have 5 minutes, but instead there was a little gentle nudge that said, no, 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 don't use it for that.
Mhm.
Use it for connection. Come back to your union and just use a simple moment. And so lingering um, feels a little clunky at first, okay? Because you've literally been programmed to constant distraction. You
Yeah.
just literally been programmed for it. But all of the saints of ages past, you read all the greats, you read John of the Cross or Julian of Norwich, Jean Guyon, these Brother Lawrence, you read these great, great people. Most of whom were very ordinary people, by the way. Um, they would say learning to linger in the presence of God is wonderful, it's healing, and it's actually essential. It's the way you're going to connect and repair. So what we do with lingering is you're not trying to fix anything, okay? This isn't fix it prayer. I got to pray for my son's test today.
Mhm.
I got to pray for my roof that's leaking, which is true at my house. My roof is leaking. Nope, I'm not going to fix anything right now. What I need to do is just be still and try and tune in. We're using lingering to try and tune in. And then here's the big new idea. You're tuning into the presence of God within you.
Mhm.
Okay? Because for every man who's opened his heart to Jesus, Jesus now lives inside him. And so we're not lobbing prayers up to heaven. We're not trying to imagine God in our living room. He is literally right there inside of you, fellas. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to linger for a moment. And the first thing you run into is, oh, I got to let everything go.
Mhm.
If I'm going to be present for 30 seconds, I just give everyone and everything to you right now, God. I just, I give to you my desire to turn the podcast off at this point because I need to get on with my day. Nope, I just release all that. And Holy Spirit, I ask your help. Would you help me tune in to the simple presence of Jesus with me and within me? And now the turning of the heart. I just begin to turn my heart towards you, Jesus. And I say, I love you. I love you. I love you. Just linger, turn your attention to the presence of Jesus within you. And Jesus, I'm asking that you give to every man a sense of your presence, a sense of your love. That, Holy Spirit, you would remove the veils that get over our hearts and keep us from enjoying the presence of God. Remove those veils now from every man. Teach me to linger, Lord. Teach me to enjoy our union and our communion with one another. Teach me this. Amen.